Alright guys, welcome back to Valorant News. One of the most important days in the history of Valorant yesterday, with TenZ officially confirming his retirement at just 23 years of age from competitive play. He confirms that he decided this before the season even began. His teammates were aware, the community was not aware until last night. What a career he's had, one of the most successful players ever really given his tenure so far, and what a career he's going to have in the future as a content creator and a streamer. Far less stressful, I imagine, than playing for Sentinels any longer. But what does this mean for the landscape of the competitive scene? What do Sentinels do? Which player do they bring in instead? So much reaction today to the performance of TenZ over the last several years, and exactly what this decision means, because a landmark moment in many respects in the history of Valorant, given TenZ has been the talisman and the player that many have looked up to and followed this scene because of over the last several years. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new, as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thanks as well for 70,000 subs. We smashed through that the other day, so massively appreciated. If you guys haven't subbed yet, then now's the time, because there's going to be so many updates over the next couple of days, I'm sure. Sad news as well for TenZ on some level is that he's never going to get to experience the brand new PCs that Riot have bought him, but we'll get back to that in a second. Just a couple of things, of course, on Ascension. We do have our grand finals set here in EMEA. It's going to be Apex versus a team effectively called Pacific, and they looked really good yesterday. They destroyed Gen.G Esports in a 3-0 fashion. They won the Lotus, they won the Abyss, they won the Bind. So that sets up the grand finals today. This is going to determine which team is going to get all the way through to win in EMEA and qualify for the next season. So, yeah, it would be wild if there was a team effectively called Pacific in EMEA. Very confusing. So I'm kind of hoping that Apex win. And they are the favourites coming from winners. But to be fair, if they don't qualify, many of these players will be signed, I will say, probably to franchise teams anyway, but that is not guaranteed, and of course they would like to qualify on their own merit. This is what's happening in the Americas right now. M80 are 4-0. They got the win yesterday against TSM as they needed to, but importantly, these boys, Glories, they finally got a win, and this Luck guy, what a player he is, by the way, and yeah, 42 in 26 he goes in this series, takes out yeah, 2 game esports, and they finally moved to 1 in 3. And the interesting thing is that TSM are 1 in 3, and their round count is terrible, whereas Glories are 1 in 3, and their round count is positive because they've just lost a really close series. If they win their final game that's actually against Reta Esports, which is obviously going to be winnable, they can still make it, I would imagine. Yeah, they can still make it for sure if they go 6 in 6, as can TSM, I would say, if they 2-0. I think TSM, they need to 2-0 all night. I think that's really the only way that they can get it. If they 2-1, they may, but if they 2-0, I think TSM might be in an okay position based on the other games. So M80 have made it for sure. Nobody else is guaranteed yet. It really depends on the final round of matches. That's pretty interesting. But also just the fact that M80, they took down TSM yesterday, a relatively clean 2-1. The map 1 Sunset was very competitive and TSM took it in an overtime, but after that they bounced back on their icebox 13-6 and M80 won the decider 13-9. Not maybe as dominant an M80 performance so far that I was expecting, but I think they've probably been getting better like every series they've played, M80, and when they get to the playoffs, they are obviously going to be the favourites, right? But, you know, the other teams into the playoffs is going to be determined over the next few hours, really. Certainly, well, late tonight, at least my time zone right now. Before we get into the TenZ stuff, this is very interesting. We've heard rumours about Global Esports, who their new head coach is going to be, and apparently Juvenile has agreed with GE to join as their new head coach. Former Leviathan coach, of course, who had some good success with them this year. He's going to go to GE, so pretty big acquisition, I've got to say, from them. This is also worthy of note that Vic is still, as it stands, scrimming with the Cloud9 boys. Moose and Zeppert seem to be saying. Rossi, we think, is coming in, and yeah, they were scrimming, it seems, NRG yesterday, and they are continuing, it seems, to trial out rosters as well. But yesterday, we saw the red chair arrive again for Sentinels, and obviously Kaplan was going to be in the replies, talking about, you know, hey, Sen City, you know, we're back again. Kaide says, I'm not ready for this one, you guys. And yeah, we saw the response a few minutes later when TenZ sits down in the chair. Now, this has been a bit of a talking point over the last few days, and it's a talking point always in Valorant or in any esports when there's a player who is very good, but equally is the most popular player by a wide margin in the case of TenZ, certainly in the Americas region, and really just around the world in general. The face of Valorant, without a doubt about it. the Valorant competitive scene has its problems in some ways. We've talked about the number of matches, we've talked about the burnout that some players experience because they grind all the time playing the game and don't really get to play that many tournaments, the difficulty of even qualifying for the internationals in the first place, and other factors in play why Valorant's competitive has caused many more players maybe than we might have expected to step away over the last few years, in addition to the fact that you are the most popular player, you're a player that could easily step away and dominate the streaming game, probably enjoy your life more, probably have far less stress than you would as a player, and make way more money, more than likely as well, is another possibility here. So for players like TenZ, it can become a bit of a no-brainer at some point. As much as I'm sure he would like to achieve more competitively, it just makes too much sense not to do this at some point. And we've seen it with other players in various other esports doing a similar thing. Usually, however, slightly later in their careers, they usually go a few more years and, try and win more championships before they take this route. But I totally get it from TenZ, and it was always a thought in the back of the mind of the community as to, whether TenZ was going to do this at some point. TenZ retiring was never an impossibility. And a few days ago, we of course saw the rumours that TenZ was scrimming, or Sentinels was scrimming without TenZ. And, we kind of thought, well, maybe there's not much to it, it's just like a one-day thing. And then TenZ came on stream and said, oh, well, I'm kind of jet-lagged after getting back from Japan, so I'm taking a day off or so. But then we saw he wasn't scrimming with them the next day, and then the next day. And, as a result of that, people were starting to talk about a little bit exactly what was going on here. And I feel like TenZ felt like it was about time to confirm this before it got maybe leaked publicly, and yesterday he makes it official. He sits down in the red chair and says that after a great career, he's officially going to retire from competitive play. Just remarkable to think about, like, the future that TenZ could have had as a player, but like I've talked about that. I totally get it from TenZ's POV, and I think maybe even for the long run, it could be a great thing for the scene. TenZ can, maybe watch part of the games, be an even bigger content creator and force in that space than he already has been, but and I think TenZ was potentially even going to retire earlier. I think there was talk about that Kaide kind of said, look, let's maybe do one more year before you retire, and it was great that he could get the victory at Masters Madrid with the boys as a result of that. So absolutely an end of an era here in competitive play, and so absolutely here an end of an era for the competitive scene, and TenZ retiring, what a day, such an important one, and he decided before the season began that he was going to step away at the end of it. He nearly didn't qualify for the big one, right? I mean, Sentinels, after falling off a little bit, they nearly didn't make it, and obviously he's going to stay on Sen as a content creator, potentially going to watch party the Valorant matches in the future, and just some reaction here. I mean, as FNS says, you made your mark. I mean, and he's going to continue to make his mark. Even Yinsu, I thought, made an interesting point that every single global event, other players are excited to meet TenZ, let alone the fans, and only few can match the influence and impact that he's had on our game. So of course, wishing the best to the king of Valorant, and Tarek says legend. So lots of nice reactions here. Obviously, some of the reactions from the players though are far more like, hang on a second, why are you leaving us type thing, and Zaltis is like, you promised me another year. And you look at the original Sentinels roster, Sick, obviously, wishing him the best right now. Zomza's retired, TenZ's retired, Shazam's effectively retired, Dapper's kind of still going, but potentially looking for a team for the new season. So, it's sad to see how quickly time moves on some level. The other point, though, of course, that's worth talking about here is, what does this mean for Rostermania, as it were? Because with TenZ now stepping away from the game entirely, Sentinels now need another new player on the roster. And also, I think it's worth noting that Sentinels in the last year have lost a number of incredible smokes players. I mean, TenZ made big strides this year, personally, with his own gameplay, especially bringing the Omen into play. I mean, we know that TenZ was playing Omen like nobody else this year, and it was incredibly impactful, certainly at the start of the year when no one was expecting it, really, playing Omen almost like a duelist, but still been great on the smokes. We've seen them, though, Pancada is now gone from Sentinels because Zelsis was there and there was no room for Pancada. We know that Marved is gone from Sentinels, obviously a year or so ago, another great smokes player, and now TenZ's gone, who was also running smokes. smokes. So it is a bit of a problem for Sentinels, potentially, as to how exactly they fill that gap, because, you know, a number of world-class players in that role have now departed their team for various reasons over the last year or so. So Xander kind of says, boom, as in, wow, this is a big one, maybe kind of saying, like, I'd heard about this, and wow, here comes the story. But, you know, could Xander be an option? I mean, M80 are going to try and win Ascension and qualify in their own right. If they don't, Xander could be someone to consider. Like, it's obviously been talked about before as well as to whether he could have gone to that team. And Marv then says, you got my number, guys, if you want me back. So, I think this is the big debate that people are wondering right now, is that where Sentinels go from here. And also, is Sassy still going to go, or is he going to stay? The belief is that, no, the Sassy stuff is real. Like, it's not like it was a cover-up, as it were, for TenZ to actually be retiring. No, we're pretty sure Sassy is going as well. That's been rumoured for some time, a long time ago, really, while the TenZ rumours were never really too substantial. It was kind of just more like a theory, and, you know, now, unfortunately for the scene, in many respects, it's actually come true. But as a result of that, this is Rocket Bullet's latest spreadsheet that he's come up with, and it's crazy to think that in EMEA, it almost looks like China, because look at the amount of red flags in the EMEA region. Those aren't the Chinese flags, those are the Turkish flags, because the Turkish scene is dominating right now. But this is what's going on right now in the Americas. So just a couple of things. Les is now linked to potentially joining Crew. It seems like Sadak is potentially nearly a locked-in done deal. NRG, Verno, we're pretty sure is done. But actually now Scuba. This also makes sense. I mean, those are the two players, really. It's Verno, Scuba, and it's Redux. Those are the three guys on the Doxon Esports team that really impressed me. And, you know, Scuba was potentially another one to think about. If Bonkar's coming in as the head coach, seems like a no-brainer, really, that, you know, Verno and potentially Scuba both will end up on that roster. So that's just a rumour for now. Leviathan, pretty interesting that apparently Com King and Tex are likely to stay. Aspas, though, is even less likely to stay, according to latest information. And to be fair, we did talk about this before. Like, what about if Aspas went to Sen or something? And, you know, could they make that work with Zekken? Possibly yes. And I think, you know, probably yes. But the problem is, are they going to be able to do that? Maybe not. Les has also been linked to Furia, but yeah, this is the latest situation on Sentinels, right? With John QT staying, Zels is staying, Zekken is surely going to be staying, and but Sassy is still considered to be, yeah, he's going to be gone, we're pretty sure, and TenZ, of course, is now no longer going to be on their starting roster by any means. So it raises interesting questions of what Sentinels do going forwards, but massively intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.